to Marks and Spencer to take back the wonderful green dress that I was so pleased that I purchased yesterday, because I made it look horrible. Oh my goodness, am I ever going to get a green dress? I think not. So I think I'm going to give up on that one. So I'm going to take back that and another item that I did take a little video of prior to deciding it was going back as well. So I will show you those probably tomorrow when I show you this. You know that wonderful green dress that I was wearing, well, that I bought yesterday from M&S because it was cheap and it was the green colour? Well, I tried it on and guess what? It looked awful on me. So it's going back. However, I did get this in a size extra large. And I think it doesn't look half bad, but as I'm not quite sure, it's going back to. Anyway, I thought I'd try this week today using my husband's car because his is somewhat more luxurious than mine and has got better soundproofing, because definitely the sound coming from the road was not desirable in my last video, so I think I'm going to try this. I did start off this video using my gimbal on a special little gimbal holder, but it kept on wobbling around, so it wasn't steady. I think it's not meant to have something tall on it, on this little holder that I purchased. So it kept on waffling around, and I think if I watched it back, it would make me seasick. So I won't inflict that on you either. And so I decided to put it in the phone holder on the dashboard and return the other thing to Amazon today. I suspect it's meant for you to put your camera on it, and I figure that would work very well. It's not very tall, so it doesn't take up a lot of space on your dashboard toward the screen, the windscreen, so it would work well for that. But for a gimbal with a handheld stick, well, no, it's not going to work. That said, I wondered what I was going to talk about on my journey here today, and I thought that I would touch on a subject that used to affect me in another life, and that was coercive control and domestic abuse. I never realized what I was going through and experiencing was coercive control, because it wasn't given a name in those days. It was just, oh, you've got a controlling husband, and you put up with that because, well, what else did you do? But these days, so many things have got a diagnosis, if you like. They've got a name. Those people that you thought were unpleasant were often narcissists. And then now these days you recognize all those signs in other people, or you recognize if you've been coercively controlled. And I was for a number of years in my first marriage. I got married when I was just 16. Well, actually, I was nearly 17. I got married in the November, and my birthday is in the beginning of the year, so I was nearly 17. And I got married because I wanted a home of my own. I know it's not a good reason to be getting married to somebody, especially if they constantly call you ugly, because that was then by now your nickname from them. It wasn't a good idea. But I don't know, in those days, if you don't have supportive parents, then you are apt to making those sort of errors, aren't you? And then you've made your bed and then you have to lie in it for a number of years until things get so bad that you think, no, I've got to leave. And I had been going out with this person from the age of, I suppose, 14, 15. And then I left to go to Ireland. That's another story. My mother lived over there. My father, at a young age, had decided, once he met his new wife, that, to put it in his own words, there just wasn't room in my life for you. So, as you can see, I wasn't best supported. However, it never occurred to me at the time that I wasn't best supported. You just get on with it, don't you? So, at the time, I thought, well, if I get married, I'll have a home. Little knowing that I actually wouldn't for over a year or so. It wasn't good. Actually, it was more than a year or so. It was until my first daughter was born. So I was 19 by then. Anyway, the coercive control started from, I suppose, the point at which I was going out with him, although I didn't recognise it. I just thought he was possessive, which clearly meant that he loved me. I mean, he doesn't, but I was ignorant, and I thought he did. I was ignorant, and I was clearly foolish. So I got married to him. My mother didn't come because she was getting married on the same day. My father didn't come, well, because he just didn't want to. And my brother gave me away, and he didn't come. He was the only person from my side of the family who had been an orphan. That said, it wasn't a particularly happy marriage. And once I started having children, I felt trapped. I had left school very early, and I'd worked in a factory. And it wasn't good. My husband was extremely controlling. He wouldn't let me wear lipstick. He wouldn't let me wear shorts. And in those days, I liked my legs. They weren't chubby. Well, they weren't chubby around the knees. I mean, I don't have chubby legs per se, but there are bits of them that have got a lot of fat round, and those are my knees, and I hate them. But in those days, I was young, and I didn't. And hot pants were all the rage. They were short shorts. He wouldn't allow me to do that. He also despite me working as a party planner, where you go and you do pottery parties in people's homes, and then they get their friends to buy stuff they don't really need. He wouldn't allow me to do that on my own, so he would have to drop me off at my clients' houses with all my pottery stuff, and then pick me up after it had finished. Despite me being able to, by that time, drive, and this was by the time I was 27. So it never actually dawned on me why I would need to get a babysitter for him to take me, because I had to pay the babysitter. So that was coming out of the pittance that I made from these parties on commission. I didn't get paid because I did the party. I got paid by the amount of pottery that I sold. Anyway, I would have to get a babysitter, the same girl, in every week when I did these parties, and my then husband would load up my car for me, and he would drive me sometimes all the way to West London, drop me off, cart all the pottery boxes into the person's house, and then when I had finished, I would use their house phone because I didn't have a mobile. The mobiles weren't a thing in those days. And he would come and pick me up. So he knew where I was all the time. And he knew that I couldn't come back anytime without him, unless, of course, I got a taxi and his husband said I didn't have any money. So given that, he had plenty of time for other activities other than minding his own children. Now I'll give you 3 guesses as to what that was with the babysitter. So that went on and on. He also, she was not the only one. In fact, it's surprising, really. I think I must have been so incredibly naive, foolish, stupid. And I thought naively that I hardly dare say this, but at the time I thought I was way too lovely to cheat on. Can you imagine? What a fool. So here's me thinking I'm way too lovely to cheat on. And I kept the house beautifully and the children beautifully, and the dinner was always on the table. And he did. And, what can you do? And yet he was so incredibly distrusting of me. He would always think that I was having affairs with men. I mean, why on earth he would think I was doing that? Because I had 3 children around the age of 3. 3 years on the trot I was pregnant. And it just doesn't, he obviously didn't think it through. I wouldn't have had the time to cheat on him. I never went out. If with these party plan companies, as they do, they arrange, if you have people, whilst you're working for the party plan, if you have people working for you, then it is down to you, come Christmas, to arrange a dinner for all those people that are in your group and that are working for you. And I had to arrange mine in the restaurant directly opposite our house. That way, he could sit in the window and watch me. That's sad, isn't it? So I did. I arranged it to go to this restaurant right opposite where we lived. And he watched me because I got the window, well, I got the table next to the window for all our people. So if people say, can you come out, can you come out to so-and-so? I'd say, no, I won't be allowed. They say, don't be ridiculous. We're not allowed. I'd say, yes, I won't be allowed. And that's really what controlling behaviour is, isn't it? When you deny somebody, an adult, to do occasionally what they want to do. And he did. And I think it was because he knew that he was so duplicitous that he couldn't think at all that anybody else might not be. So I would say to all those girls out there, those ladies out there, if you're with somebody that wants to control your every waking moment, your dressing, your makeup, how you look, how you behave. If somebody looked at me, I would be to blame, which is ludicrous. You can't help it if somebody looks at you, can you? It's just, it's just one of those things. Somebody sees you, and it doesn't mean to say because they're looking at you, they're thinking whatever they're thinking. It might be, good Lord, look at her, what a funny nose, something like that. But in my ex-husband's view, it was something bad. So if you are with somebody like that, they are never ever going to get better, because I truly believe it's a sickness inside of them. And even 30 odd years later, I still occupy space in that man's brain. Yeah, that is sad, because for me, I am completely indifferent to him. He doesn't matter at all to me. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing there. When deep inside they know what they did, how they behaved, it really is sad, isn't it? I've been thinking, I wonder why I behaved like I did in those days. And I think it's because I had such low self-worth. Now, it was what it was, it is what it is. And a lack of self-esteem can make you accept a lot of things that if you had better self-esteem you wouldn't, because you would know you deserve better. And it can be for the young and old. You can find yourself doing that when you're young, but equally you can be in a marriage for years and years that you started off when you were young, and then you lost yourself. You lost the person that you are. It's been slowly diminished by everybody's opinion of you. Inaccurate, ill-judged, but nevertheless you take it on board as your own. And what happens is that you get caught up in this never-ending cycle. Oh, do you know, this car has such a good turning circle. If I was in my Mini, I'd have had to whoosh around and try and get out of that pickle I was in then. Anyway, you can lose yourself bit by bit and you don't notice it. What initially attracted your husband to you might have been your strength, but over the years, trying to placate someone who really and truthfully wants their own way and doesn't want to listen to your point of view, you give in for the peace. But sometimes, actually, that's not so good. It's not good for you, it's not good for them, because what they achieve in creating is something that they don't like. Somebody who constantly gives in. And if you're a strong woman to start with, or you had a real sense of your own personality, then they are going to resent you. And you're going to think to yourself, why are they behaving like this to me? I'm so lovely to them. I do all of this, that, and the other for them. And it goes by the wayside because they've manipulated you for so many years into becoming the person you've become that they don't particularly like you anymore as a person. I know this because I was that person. I started off in life being a complete daddy's girl, went to Malaya, absolutely adored the ground he walked on, and then he didn't want me because he'd found a new person to love and cherish, and he wanted to start over, and he did. But unfortunately, I couldn't disappear into the ether. And that for him was unfortunate. But it did leave me, or should I say lead me, to making poor choices from that start. You could say, well, my mother could have had me, but she was so unstable. I suspect that's why he left her. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was 7, when we were in Malaya, and she had a breakdown. And apparently the doctor said to my father, and I know this because he repeated it to me, he said, out of everybody that she loves her mother the best. But she likes you quite a lot. She didn't mention the children. We obviously didn't come on the list. Having said that, when she was not behaving oddly, she was very intelligent. She learned to speak fluent German from a book in those days, in the 1950s. That's an achievement, isn't it? She could draft a dress pattern from pieces of newspaper lying on the floor and cut out a pattern and then make a dress from it. I can't even do that with a normal pattern. It ends up about 10 sizes too big and looks dreadful. She had also sewed all by hand because she never had a sewing machine. I mean, for me, I think that's a skill. But she was ill. She was ill. So I can understand why she would behave as she did. I mean, for a long time, she would have visions, and I thought she was psychic. But She wasn't. She was schizophrenic. I mean, I suppose when you hear somebody has visions when you're a child, you think, well, they must be psychic. You'd almost buy them a crystal ball, wouldn't you? But she wasn't. She was ill. And when she would become violent, she wouldn't even remember it the next day. Just, gone. I can remember once saying she came into the room and I was staying with her, and she was upset by something that I had done or said. And it really, really doesn't or didn't have to be very much. Maybe I looked at her the wrong way. I could look at her the wrong way according to her. Anyway, she didn't like my boyfriend. She probably had good reason. And she got herself into such a temper. She came right up to me with her finger poking not quite in my face, but at my face, and talking through her teeth. She told me, don't you go to sleep tonight, otherwise I'll come in here and stab you. So of course I didn't. I mean, I was 14, 15, and you believe, if she says that, she's going to do it. So I searched that night and I watched the door. And in the morning, she came in and she was right as ninepence. And she said, what's the matter with you? You look terrible. And I said, I'm tired. And she said, why? And I said, because you told me if I went to sleep last night, you'd come in here and stab me. And she said, oh, goodness, I didn't say that, did I? And I said, yes. She said, that's a terrible thing to say. And in truth it was, but she didn't remember. How could you not remember saying something like that, eh? There you go. Not the most supportive of parents. But my dad didn't want me. And certainly my mum wasn't really capable of wanting me. So that prompted me to make extremely poor choices. Up until I did a course on neuro-linguistic programming, and I'll talk about that in